Hello, how are you today, children? It's good to see you. Today, the book we're going to read from is The Crippled Lamb by Max Lucado, and it's illustrated by Liz Bonham. What do you think it's about? Yes, a little lamb. And what animal is this? That's right, it's a cow. Look at all these sheep. Where do you think they might be? Well, let's read the story and find out. Once upon a time, in a sunny valley, there lived a little lamb named Joshua. He was white with black spots. Joshua felt sad when he saw the other lambs with the snow white wool and no spots. He felt sad when he saw other sheep with their moms and dads because he didn't have a mom or dad. But he felt saddest when he saw the other lambs running and jumping because he couldn't. He had been born with one leg that just didn't work like the other legs. They called him crippled, and he always limped when he walked. So he would sit here while the other lambs went out to play. He would eat the grass right around him while the other lambs could roam around and find what they wanted. And he felt sad and alone because often he was by himself. Or maybe the cow, which wasn't out roaming either, would buddy up to him. Abigail was Josh's first best friend. She didn't look like a friend because she was the old cow. She was brown with white splotches and looked like rain puddles on a path. That's what Josh thought. Her belly was round as a barrel, and her voice was always kind and friendly. Some of Josh's favorite hours were spent with Abigail. Here they are. Do you think that's day or night? Yes, you can see the stars in dark sky, so it's nighttime, or very early in the morning, but probably at night. They being, yes, Abigail the cow and Josh the lamb. They loved to pretend they were on ventures in different lands. Josh liked to listen to Abigail tell stories about the stars. They'd spend hours on the hill looking into the valley down below. They were good friends. But even with a friend like Abigail, Josh still got sad sometimes. It made him sad to be the only lamb that he knew that couldn't run and leap and play in the grass. And Abigail would turn to him and say, "Don't be sad, Josh. God has a special place for those who feel left out." Josh wanted to believe her, but it was hard. Some days he just felt alone, and he really felt alone the day that the shepherds, see the shepherds? They're in charge of the sheep. They guard them, protect them, make sure they have food and water. Well, the day the shepherds decided to take the lambs to the next valley because there was more grass. The sheep had been in the valley so long, this grass was nearly bare. So they had to move the sheep to get fresh grass. And all the sheep were excited. They were going like, yay, travel, travel, trip time. And so as they prepared to leave, the sheep started telling little Josh, you can't go with us. And they even teased him. They were not nice about it. They said things like, you're too slow. Go back, slowpoke. We'll never get there if we have to wait on you. It wasn't nice, was it? Then sometimes people say mean things or they don't think. They just say something not realizing how it's going to hurt their feelings. And look, the shepherd, what's he doing? Why, he's petting little Josh. He cares about Josh. And he's going to say it in a different way. He's going to say, Josh, they're right. You better go on back. This trip is too long for you. Go and spend the night in the stable. Now, why do you think he said the stable? We would call that a barn here today. And it's because the barn's going to be warm. It's going to have a roof, keep walls, make it warmer, protect it in case it rains. And also, it's going to be stocked with fresh hay. So Josh is going to have plenty of food to eat along with his friend Abigail, because Abigail will be in the stable too. So Josh looked at the shepherd for a long time, and slowly he walked away. He walked back to the stable. Here are all the sheep getting ready to go on their trip. When Josh got to the top of the hill, he looked down and he saw all the other sheep headed out. Never before had he felt so alone. A big tear just rolled out from his eye and down his face. And it was so big it continued on down and fell on a rock. Just then he heard Abigail behind him. Abigail said what she always said when Josh felt sad. Don't be sad, little Joshua. God has a place for you, special place for those who feel left out. Slowly the two friends turned and walked back. By the time they got to the little barn, the sun was setting like a big orange ball. And here they are. What are they doing? Yes, they're eating. They're eating the hay. Josh and Abigail went inside and began to eat the hay out of the feed box. They were very hungry and the hay tasted very good. For a little while, Joshua forgot that he had been left behind. Go to sleep, little friend, Abigail said. You've had a hard day. And Josh was tired, so he lay down in the corner on some straw and closed his eyes. He felt Abigail lie down beside him, and he was so glad to have Abigail as a friend. Here they are, lying down next to each other. It's good to have friends, isn't it? And Abigail is a good friend. So soon Josh was asleep, and at first he slept really soundly, really well. He curled up against Abigail's back, and in his sleep he dreamed. He dreamed of running, of jumping, just like the other sheep. He dreamed of long walks with Abigail through the valley. He dreamed of being in a place where he never felt left out. Suddenly, strange noise woke him up. He's going, hmm, what's going on? Abigail, he whispered. Abigail, wake up! I'm scared. And Abigail lifted her big head and looked around. Hmm, hmm. What do you see? The stable was dark except for a small lamp hanging on the wall. Somebody is here, Josh whispered. And they looked across the dimly lighted stable. There, lying on some fresh hay in the feed box, was a baby. Look! Where they had eaten earlier, but there was still some hay in it. Still, so the baby was lying just on it. And look! There was a woman. Who do you think she was? That's right, the baby's mother. Yeah. And see, and here's Abigail and Josh looking on. Here's that little light. It's not very big, is it? They didn't have any electricity out in the barn. And when this story took place, there wasn't electricity. This is how they got light, with candles and oil lamps. Joshua looked at Abigail, thinking his friend could tell him what was going on. But Abigail was as surprised as Josh. Didn't have any answers. Joshua looked again at the woman and the child and limped across the stable. See? He stopped next to the mother and looked into the baby's face, just in awe. That's how we feel when we look at babies. But what he saw didn't make him happy. The baby was shivering. It was cold. Oh, cold. And it was crying. Oh, poor baby. The woman picked up the baby and put it on the hay next to her, trying to get the baby warm. Joshua looked around the stable. Goes, what do we have? Usually there were blankets, but not tonight. The shepherds had taken them all to keep everyone warm in the valley that they were going to on that long trip. Then Josh remembered his own soft, warm wool. Timidly, he walked over and curled up next to the baby. See? Thank you, little lamb, the baby's mother said. And soon the child stopped crying and went back to sleep. About that time, a man entered the stable carrying some rags. See? I'm sorry, Mary. This is all the cover I could find. It's okay, she said. This little lamb has kept the new king warm. A king? Joshua looked at the baby again and wondered, who are you? Who is this baby? And who are these people? His name is Jesus. See, this is Mary. And this is Joseph. Maybe you read the story of Mary and Joseph recently at Christmas time? Or heard about it at church? If not, you can ask your parents and they can tell you the story. But Mary says, this is Jesus, God's Son. He came from heaven to teach us about God. And just then there was another noise at the door. It was the shepherds, the ones who had left Joshua behind. Their eyes were big and they were excited. We saw a bright light and we heard angels. Yes, God spoke to the angels through the angels on the hillside, telling them about the birth of Jesus, telling them that all was going to be right. And then they saw Joshua next to the baby. See? And here's the shepherd that was so kind to Joshua. And so he goes, "Do you know who this baby is?" And the mother speaks out, Mother Mary. She says, "He does now. God has heard your prayers, little lamb. This little baby is the answer." See, here's everyone looking on. So what special thing did Joshua have? Why his wool? And why was he there in the stable? Yes, because he wasn't able to make the trip. How his body was made couldn't travel that long distance, but God used him for a different purpose and took advantage of that because he would be there. God used him to help keep baby Jesus warm. And Joshua looked down at the baby. Somehow he knew this was a special child, and this was a special moment. He also understood that being born with a crippled leg, God could use him in a different way than the other sheep. And he was among the first to welcome in baby Jesus. He turned and walked back to Abigail and took his place beside his friend. He says, "Abigail, you were right. God does have a special place for me. And God has a special place for all of us, whether we're old or young, whether all our limbs work or not. You get to be my age, they don't always work right anyway, regardless of how they worked youngerly. And then we're all made different. We have different body sizes, we have different parts, just like animals are made different. God uses each of us based on how we are made. So you think about what's special about you and how might God use you the way God made you. You have a great day today, children. I love you. Bye-bye.